Hi everyone, it's Eric, and today we'll be reviewing the Samsung Galaxy S7, which was very kindly sent to me by Vodafone. So, let's get to it. Alright, so what we're going to do is start off with the pros, the cons, then I'll give you my conclusion as to what I think of this Galaxy S7. So let's start with the pros. The first thing I'd like to comment on is the screen. The screen is 5.1 inches and is running at a resolution of 1440 by 2560. The colours on the screen really do pop and they are extremely vibrant, and watching videos on this is an absolute joy in terms of the visual experience. The only criticism I have in regards to the screen, despite the fact that it is very good, is that with every iteration Samsung seems to actually innovate with the screen and make it seem a little bit better every year. This screen to me looks exactly identical to the screen on the Galaxy S6 from last year, so it doesn't seem like they had done any revisions to the screen in regards to this year. The next thing is the performance. Now the Samsung Galaxy S1, 2, 3 and 4 all had fantastic performance, but the S5 really lagged, and that was largely down to TouchWiz. In the Galaxy S6, Samsung had cut down on the amount of resources that TouchWiz was taking from the actual smartphone, and they made the S6 much faster. Now the S7 is no exception. The S7, they seem to have cut down on TouchWiz even more, and the performance is great. I've had absolutely no complaints in regards to navigating around the operating system, launching apps, playing games on it. Of course it's going to be perfect, so I've had no complaints. It's been a fluid experience throughout my entire week of testing this. Next up is battery life. Now Samsung did increase the actual thickness of the S7 when compared to the S6 to give it a bigger and thicker battery in there. And I gotta say that it's great that they've done that. Every smartphone these past few years has just been a statement from companies trying to show how thin they can make their smartphones. But I am so glad that Samsung made it a bit thicker this time to incorporate a bigger battery. And I would have a bigger battery over a thinner phone any day. In regards to how long it lasts, for me it's been lasting about a day and a half. And that is absolutely great. Now that does sort of like vary from low to heavy use. Some days I can be hardly using it and it'll last me about 3 days. Other days I'll be using it sort of like medium use and that will last me about a day and a half. But if you're doing it for heavy use, it should last you a day. Keep in mind though, if you're going to use this as your full-time media device, you're going to get the standard 4 to 4.5 hours of usage from this on a full charge. Also, something that is really quite interesting is that Samsung have brought back the micro SD card slot in the S7. Why they removed it on the S6 and S6 Edge in the first place is beyond me. It was obviously a stupid decision and they seem to have acknowledged that, and they have brought it back on the S7, which is a really great thing. This really is a slap in the face though to S6 and S6 Edge owners who had to pay more money to get a higher capacity. It's good that it's back, but it should have never been taken away in the first place. And the next thing is the camera. Now we have always expected great cameras on Samsung smartphones, and this iteration is no different. And just like every other iteration, they have exceeded our expectations. Now, to the average consumer, the drop in megapixels from 16 megapixels to 12 is going to seem like it'll have a drop in image quality. But really, the images on the F7 have been fantastic. They are so well detailed, got so much color reproduction, and the white balance I found personally to be perfect and spot on. Low light performance is a bit hit and miss, but on the whole, I've had no complaints with the camera on the S7. And the 4K video this captures is also extremely colorful, very stable, and I have just nothing but compliments to say about the camera. Also, the phone is waterproof. Now that is no big standout staple feature by any means, but it's just a good peace of mind to know that you've got a waterproofing sort of like coating all over this phone. Alright, now it's time to move on to the bad aspects, and trust me, there are a ton of bad things about the S7. One is the design. Now the design on the S7 is not bad, but compared to the S6 and S6 Edge, this feels like a major step back. Now the S6 had a really nice feel. The phone was made of glass on the front and back, but all around the circumference you had a metal band going around it, and feeling that metal band in your hand really felt like great quality. With the S7, when you feel it, the whole side, even though it's meant to be metal, it looks like plastic, and when you're holding it in your hand, it feels like plastic as well. The design on this S7, to me, is not appealing at all in the slightest. It'll look good from certain angles, but when you hold it, the quality just sort of like degenerates every single second you're holding it. Now the fact that this is waterproof, that probably has a big part in why the design doesn't feel or look as good. But still, I'm pretty certain they could have done the waterproofing and still made a premium design out of this. Now Samsung also made a statement that the Galaxy S7 has got Gorilla Glass 4 on the front and back. All I have to say is, if you drop this phone, it's still gonna break. So until it's drop proof, all those extra added numbers on Gorilla Glass will mean nothing to me. Now there are many other sort of like small nitpicky things I can talk about on the S7, but now I'm gonna give you the major deal breaker of the S7. And one of the reasons why I think the S7 is a complete step back when compared to the S6, and that is the speaker. Now, the Samsung Galaxy S range are not known to have fantastic speakers, but with the S6 I really did think it was acceptable, and it was good for many people. That being said, the speaker on the S7 is absolutely awful. It doesn't go very loud, it's very, very tinny. It's somehow worse than the speakers on the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, and to top it off, budget smartphones perform much better than the speaker on the S7. Now, this is largely down to the waterproofing feature that the speakers have actually been reduced in quality. But all I gotta say is, to waterproof the phone, that is a major gift, sacrificing the speaker on this. I mean, the speaker for me practically is useless. Now, if you're using headphones, that's not much of a problem, but when you're paying this much money for a top-end smartphone, you should at minimum expect a good speaker. But this one is absolutely terrible. And that is two major deal breakers right there. The build quality is not as good as the S6, and the speaker is not as good as the S6. And not only that, for me, the S7 has been completely joyless. Now, whenever I've been sent smartphones over to review over the past few years, it's basically a job. You've obviously got to sort of like use the phone, take notes, criticize the phone, and also compliment it whenever you see any great features. But with every single phone, I have thoroughly enjoyed doing it. So it's not just felt like work to me, it's really felt like fun doing it. This is the first smartphone I have ever reviewed where it has literally just felt like work. I didn't enjoy picking this up and using it, and the reason why is because every time I was doing stuff on this phone, I just felt like picking up my Nexus 6 and doing it there. And if you love the multimedia experience on your smartphone like I do, you will be completely disappointed with the S7. Even for people that love Samsung devices, I am just shocked that they tried to defend it, because I dare say that Samsung have stooped lower than Apple do with their S devices. The best way for me to describe my experience with the S7 and the minimalistic improvements is that this felt just like an Apple S phone. Whenever Apple released their 4S, the 5S, the 6S, the 7S like they're going to do next year, it's always a very, very poor upgrade. And this feels worse than those upgrades. And that is probably the worst thing I can say about this phone. There is no point in its existence. This was literally just a cash grab. Samsung abused the name of their brand just in the vain hope of selling some handsets. And overall, out of all the phones I've basically seen from this year, the last 5 years, this has been like the worst upgrade I have ever seen. And I mean a worse upgrade than that of the HTC One M9. Yeah, I'm going there. Out of all of Samsung's flagship handsets, this has been the worst phone they have ever come out with. And honestly, it's going to be going back tomorrow, and I'm just going to forget about this as soon as I've used it. If you're a fan of Samsung smartphones, I would not go with this. If you had a Samsung Galaxy S6 or S6 Edge, definitely don't go with this. If you have an older Samsung Galaxy smartphone or any other smartphone and you think you're coming over to the Samsung Galaxy range, I still would not recommend the S7. I'd recommend you go with the S6 or S6 Edge, as the prices on those have been reduced. And the performance on those is just as good as this, the screen quality is just as good as this, the build quality is better than this, the speakers are better than this, and overall, if I had to choose personally and spend my own money on a smartphone, I would rather get the S6 than this S7. I can't remember the last time I have been disappointed with the release of a smartphone, and I would actually put this up there as one of the top 3 most disappointing smartphones I have ever reviewed. Oh, that feels so good. Anyway, that's my review of the Galaxy S7. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up and comment below with your thoughts on the S7 as well. And I'll catch all of you next time. Take care. This video is sponsored by 3 Minute Reviews, the one and only show where you will get the most informative reviews in as little as 3 minutes. I hope you enjoy the show.